Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Landscaped. Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers with your hosts Bang and Dang. And we don't have child murders today, but we do have murders.
we got go fuckers.
This one of the police officer variety, where 1971 on February 15th, five West Dallas police officers were abducted. 3 were killed, 1 injured near Trinity River in Dallas County and Ellis County. That's where their sheriffs were from, also known as the Trinity River Massacre. And they were abducted by 2 pieces of crap named Rene Guzman and Leonardo Lopez.
Oh.
And we're in Bristol, Texas, which in 1971, I guess, was an alleged target for burglars coming from Dallas. And the town, obviously, they're a little small town. They don't have a police force. And investigations were conducted by either Ellis or Dallas County officers.
Oh, jeez. On that very afternoon, Monday, February 15th, 1971, a home near Bristol was burglarized. Several items, including television set and stereo, were taken. You know, the common. A resident of Bristol had copied down the license plate number of the car that was unfamiliar and reported it to the Ellis County Police Department. Ellis County deputies A.J. Robertson and Wendell Dover went to Dallas with a felony warrant to investigate the home of the car owner. They were later joined by Dallas County officer Samuel Infante, who was a Spanish speaker, William Reese, and A.D. McCurley.
Well, this so-called car owner was registered as living at 2810 Ingersoll Street in Dallas. Infante, Robertson, and Dover were the first to arrive at the address. Guzman and Lopez were seated in a white Ford Fairlane in the front yard of the house. The car that had been reported in Ellis County, a red and white 62 Ford, was backed up to the house.
Oh.
The 2 men invited the officers into the house.
Wow.
Why would they invite them into the house? It's sketchy already.
I wouldn't do that.
Why don't you
come in, officers?
Right.
Come
on in.
in.
With Infante acting as a translator. While inside, Infante contacted the Dallas Sheriff's Office and requested for Reese to bring a blank consent to search form for the house.
Reese was joined by McCurley, and the 2 made their way to the house. Guzman and Lopez told the officers that the car in question had been left at their house and that they had not participated in any burglaries. Like,
Hey, just
like, dude, we're actually talking in the car when you guys showed up if we should actually contact authorities. Be like, hey, there's a car in my driveway. You the police? No.
You should know. You tell me.
Dover stepped out of the house to check if the engine was in the 1962 Ford was still warm. Why would it still be warm?
Right.
Did it just happen?
Probably, right. They just called them.
Right. Yeah. While he was checking the car, one of the men followed him out of the house and pressed a gun to Dover's back.
Oh.
The man took Dover's pistol and forced him into the house, where Dover saw Infante and Robertson being held at gunpoint and seated. Oh, shit. This dude's like, oh, damn.
Damn it. Got me. After Infante had ended his call to the sheriff's office, Guzman and Lopez pulled their guns on the officers and disarmed them. Robinson told Dover to do as the gunman said. Dover, Infante, and Robertson's hands were tied, and the gunman awaited the arrivals of the other officers that had been called with
And
the
you
thing,
already know.
which were Reese and McCurley, and they arrived at the house around 15 minutes after the officers were disarmed, and they were told to enter by an unknown voice.
So they're just going to enter
They're just
somewhere.
like, all right. Oh my gosh, he's got to be the dumbest cops ever.
Right. McCurley and Reese entered the house and saw Infante, Robertson, and Dover with their hands bound and seated on chairs. Guzman and Lopez had waited on either side of the door, and they had a gun in each hand. Damn.
Double fisting it.
They threatened McCurley and Reese before taking their weapons and binding their hands in with the rope. They're like, if you do anything, we will shoot you. A third man entered the house for a short time and spoke with Guzman and Lopez before leaving. Infante attempted to reason with Guzman and Lopez. He told the men that they had the officers' guns, money, cars. They could flee to Mexico.
They're like, hell no, we just fled from Mexico.
Right.
The hell have I got to go back there for?
Like, yeah, you see, we can't do that.
The men refused. Dover stated that neither of the men appeared to be under the influence of drugs and that the taller gunman seemed nervous, whereas the shorter man appeared steady as a rock.
Right.
One of the men went out and backed a squad car to the back door of the house. The men then took the officers and sat them beside the county squad car. Infante was placed in the front, and the rest of the officers were placed in the back. One of the men returned to the home, and one remained in the squad car. Officer Reese spoke to the remaining man and attempted to convince him to release them, but the other man returned and the two men entered the car with the officers.
Oh, man.
Nope. And too deep now.
Yeah. Fonte's hands were untied. He was forced at gunpoint to drive. The men were driven onto Singleton Drive going east, turned on
I
Hampton
think
Road.
a cop car would have like a
Something.
secret button or something you could push.
Right. The men were driven onto Singleton Drive going east, turned onto Hampton Road going north towards Trinity River, west onto Canada Drive, and then north again towards a dirt road parallel to the Trinity River levee.
Okay, so you could have just said they went
Right to the Trinity River levee.
Right.
Well, approaching the Trinity River bank, Reese whispered to McCurley that he had freed his hands and that the incident had gone far enough.
Oh, see.
They mean to kill us, he says.
Clearly.
As Fonte was ordered to stop the car in a small gully between the levee and the dirt road, he stated aloud, "This is it. They're going to kill us now."
Well, Guzman and Lopez had been communicating between one another in Spanish. All 7 men quickly got out of the car. Reese told Guzman and Lopez that all of the officers had freed their hands, and both he and an Ellis County officer attempted to dissuade Guzman and Lopez from killing them. Well, Reese swung at Guzman and was shot by Guzman.
Oh.
Infante tackled Lopez and was shot and killed.
Oh.
Dover and Robertson fled the scene towards what's a bunch of pussies.
Right.
They fled the scene towards Westmoreland Street, and Robertson saw that Guzman and Lopez had returned to the squad car and were driving towards Dover and Robertson, and he shouted to Dover that the men were going to run them down.
Oh, shit. Dover and Robertson went over to the levee to the riverbank. Dover reached the edge of the river after Robertson, and saw Robertson cornered by the shorter of the 2 men. The man's gun was jammed. Robertson called for Dover to help him capture the man. As Dover made his way to Robertson, the other shooter came down the riverbank towards them, obviously. He was armed with 2 guns. Robertson yelled at Dover to run, and the 2 fled down the riverbank. Robertson was shot in the back near the river's edge.
Damn. Dover ran up the bank in an attempt to retrieve a loaded shotgun from the squad car when he was shot by a gunman from the top of the riverbank. He fell unconscious. When he regained consciousness, he saw Robertson laying near him. He checked for a pulse and found that Robertson was dead.
Jeez.
Reese was also laying nearby, and Dover found that he was also deceased.
Jeez.
Dover made his way over the levee embankment and could not see the gunman. He went over the embankment and went towards Westmoreland Street.
As the shooting broke out, McCurley dove backwards over the riverbank. He landed 20 feet down the slope near the edge of the Trinity River. A tree at the edge of the river stopped McCurley from falling into the water and caused him to free his bound hands. Oh.
All right. That's, yeah. Probably don't want to go in the water with your hands tied.
Right. He had feared falling into the water with his hands tied would result in death.
Death.
Unless he can float, but then
Right.
they'll just shoot him. He ran east alongside the river and crawled under bushes until he reached Westmoreland Road. McCurley was able to flag down a car, and the driver took him to a gas station. McCurley used the phone at the gas station to call the city police and obtained a small pistol from the gas station attendant. Damn. No, it's Texas.
Oh, you know that gas station
Or,
attendant's armed.
Is it Texas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Texas.
Well, a city officer picked McCurley up from the gas station, and the 2 returned to the scene of the shooting. Guzman and Lopez had left, obviously. Dover was found stumbling through a grassy area northeast of the shooting site. He had been shot in the chest and arm.
Oh.
McCurley and the officer picked him up and took him to Parkland Hospital. Oh, Parkland. Other police officers and the deputies made their way to the shooting site and found the bodies of the other officers.
Jeez.
Infante's body was found face down on a pile of rubble. Reese's body was found west of Infante and down the riverbank. He was on his back, and Robertson's body was found near Reese.
Jeez.
Well, you don't know what they were going to do anyways.
Oh,
The officer swung at him, and
They're definitely going to kill him.
probably.
The suspects had left the site and stolen the squad car,
Well, it shouldn't be too hard to find then.
which was later found abandoned.
All right.
The officers' billfolds had been taken. Over 400 sheriffs and officers searched the area for suspects. 2 men were arrested as suspects the evening of the shooting. It was theorized that the third man, the leader of the group, was believed to have been recently released from prison for a murder conviction.
Why?
Drug cartels own everything, man.
All right.
Tuesday, February 16th. Rene Guzman and his brother, Moises Guzman, were charged with Moida with malice. What
It
they
wasn't
find
even. It wasn't even the other. It wasn't Moises. It was Lopez.
Right.
What the hell? Well, the brothers were both residents of 2810 Ingersoll Street. One of the arrested suspects was Moises, who had been arrested in the 2900 block of Weisenberger Street. His and Renee's fingerprints were allegedly found in the stolen squad car. Renee was still at large at the time the murder charges were set, and the lawman searched motorists passing through the Texas-Mexico border.
Obviously.
Thursday, February 18th, McCurley identified Moises as the man who entered and left the home before the shootings. Right.
Oh, he was there.
So what? Okay, and how are they going to charge him with murder?
Well, he knew that.
He could have went in and be like, dude, I don't want no part of this.
Anyway, he could have called the cops.
Well, I guess, but except after the fact, not murder, though.
McCurley stated in an early interview that the shooters had attempted to convince Moises to join them, but Moises refused.
Let's see.
Moises,
He's like, I'm on parole.
right, who had been held without bond since his arrest on Monday, had a written statement that told his account of the day of the shootings. Moises stated that he arrived at the home on Ingersoll Street around 5:30 p.m. and was warned by his stepfather that there was trouble inside the house. Moises entered the home, saw his brother, Rene, and an unnamed friend holding guns.
Unnamed. Pretty sure he knows his name.
What's his name? I don't know.
He saw the officers tied down in chairs. He left the house immediately, walked half a block down the street, and did not return until he saw a car full of people leaving the house. A car? A squad car, you mean?
Right.
Moises returned to the home and took 4 rifles and a television set, and using Renee's car, drove to a relative's house on Weisenberger Street, where he was later arrested.
Yeah, that TV set.
Yeah, man, I just got this. Following a statement in McCurley's interview, Rene remained a suspect, and a warrant was set out for an unnamed John Doe, who was the second shooter, which we now know was Lopez, obviously.
Okay.
What the hell are these cops thinking, though?
Right.
They just go into a house?
I mean, it's
They're like, no, we'll stay out here.
Right. An informant connected to the U.S. Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs told the police that Guzman and Lopez were hiding in a boarding house on Ross Avenue. Following their arrest, the informant received a $1,000 reward.
Nice.
The man, later identified as heroin dealer Agapito Gonzalez, was moited in June 1971.
A couple months afterwards, so you know why he was murdered.
Yeah. Friday, February 19th. About 40 federal, state, county, and city officers participated in a raid on an apartment complex at 4627 San Jacinto Street. The raid was led by Dallas County Deputy Sheriff Lou Aker.
Hey, Lou Aker.
And he was the partner of Infante. Oh, he shouldn't have done that.
Oh, it got it all up in his feelings.
Yeah, he's looking for revenge.
Wow.
That's how we get riots, bud. Revenge killings. An entire block was sealed off in preparation of the raid.
Because nobody in the house saw that this block was getting sealed off.
With the perimeter of the block being defined by San Jacinto Street, Annex Street, Fitzhugh Street, and Ross Avenue. Oh, you got a little avenue there.
All right.
And others.
Right. Around 12:30 a.m., police entered the apartment of Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Rodriguez. Gunfire was exchanged, and both Thomas and his pregnant wife were shot.
Oh, shit.
Police searched a large building in the apartment complex and found and arrested Guzman and Lopez at around 1 a.m. 2 women, one of whom was reported to be a companion of Guzman, had hindered the police by initially claiming there was no one else within the apartment.
Dude, I guarantee it, there's these are just 2 people out of 100. Guzman and Lopez, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like a whole thing. Look at, they went into one apartment, they're getting shot at by freaking couples.
Right. Yeah, right. Like, why are they exchanging fires with Thomas Rodriguez?
Right.
Holy shit. Well, police officers saw curtains move into the bathroom window, and officers rushed past the 2 women and entered the apartment. You liars!
Officers ordered Guzman and Lopez to surrender. Guzman tossed out a pistol from the bathroom and surrendered. Lopez was arrested and moved from the bathroom. Good. Within the apartment, police found 2 pistols, including Infante's .38 caliber service revolver, which had been tossed out of an adjoining room.
Jeez.
2 women, Alice Rosales and Angie Hernandez, would be charged as accessories to the moida for resisting the officers as the apartment was raided. You dumb cunts, you're going to get like 10 to 15.
Probably. Especially, it's not no just regular murder.
Right, that's
case
police.
you get looking at here. Guzman confessed to the killings on the night of his arrest. He stated that he and Lopez began shooting at an officer when Reese freed his hands and took a .32 caliber revolver. It was speculated that Guzman remained in Dallas to stay close to his heroin supplier.
Yeah.
And 5 days after his arrest, Lopez confessed to the triple slayings in a signed written statement.
Jeez.
According to his statement, it was Guzman who first drew his gun on Infante, Robertson, and Dover at the Ingersoll house, and it was Guzman's idea to drive them into the Trinity River.
Nah, I don't think so.
Lopez stated that the shootings began when Reese freed his hands and managed to grab a pistol. Lopez claimed that Reese began shooting at him. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe, though. Who knows?
He claimed to have seen Guzman kill Infante, and that Reese had run out of bullets and was running away when Lopez shot and killed him. Lopez and Guzman then chased Robertson and Dover. Lopez shot one of the men once. Lopez looked for the other officer, McCurley, but could not find him. Then Lopez stated that he had taken a hit of heroin within 2 hours before the moitas and could not explain why the killings happened. He claimed he and Guzman did not attempt to leave Dallas because of their drug addictions. When a deputy asked if Lopez had any questions before he signed his confession, Lopez only asked if he could, if he was going to get the chair.
Probably.
Am I going to get the chair? Cops are probably like, nah,
They're
dude.
like, no, we're gonna firing squad your ass.
Nah, dude.
The Rodriguez family lived in a garage apartment at the San Jacinto address. An informant had claimed Guzman lived in the garage apartment leading to the raid. Also, the informant was wrong. Detective Captain Robert O. Dixon reported that his team announced themselves as police officers and commanded anyone in the apartment to open the door 3 times but heard no response. He saw a light turn on and off within the apartment before someone inside shot at the officers twice.
Oh, shit.
Officers then returned fire.
Thomas Rodriguez lived with his 5-month pregnant wife, Berta, and their 8 children.
Damn.
Holy shit. February 24th, he gave his account of the night of the shooting to Pancho Medrano, a labor and civil rights activist. Right. The interview was conducted in Spanish and published in El Sol de Texas and Papel Chicano. According to Thomas, he and his family were asleep when he heard the sound of someone attempting to break their door down. The children woke up, began crying and screaming. He went to the front of the apartment and found it open. And it was then when he was shot through the chest and arms by the motherfucking police.
He went for the gun that he kept behind the sofa and went to the kitchen door 30 feet from the front entrance. He was then shot again, and this time through the leg once he arrived at the kitchen door. He fired after he was last shot and said he did not know where the bullet went. His wife was seated in the living room and had been shot through the leg. Rodriguez returned to the living room where his son told him to drop the gun because the shooters were police. He said, oh, shit.
Oh.
Rodriguez then went outside and was taken into custody. He claimed that he was not questioned at the scene or Parkland Hospital where he was taken, and that he only knew Guzman through what he saw on the news.
Okay, so that takes back my other statement earlier, like it was a whole operation in that apartment building.
Well, because the informant...
Right, gave the wrong address.
Right, idiot.
Throughout his interview with Medrano, he stated that he only wished to protect his family and that he was afraid. Some neighbors corroborate the police. They didn't say open up police or whatever.
The cops claim they did, but he says they just found the door open when he got up.
I was about to read it. Some neighbors corroborated with Rodriguez's claim that there was no such warnings before the shooting began. I mean, if they're all Mexican and that.
And they're in a little ass apartment, so you would have heard them screaming.
Yeah, but you know how they stick together.
Well, right.
Well, people stick together, not Mexicans. Like if you're living in an apartment complex.
Especially one that's probably drug-filled and criminals.
Following the shooting, Sheriff Clarence Jones claimed that the Rodriguez apartment raid was not a mistake and that he had evidence proving that Rodriguez was a heroin supplier for Guzman and Lopez.
But that's not why you raided him.
Right. Did they find anything in there? On Wednesday, February 24th, District Attorney Henry Wade stated that it would be impossible to charge Rodriguez as a narcotics pusher unless drugs were found at the apartment.
Right.
Or he had sold drugs to an undercover agent.
But that doesn't matter.
They're trying to cover
Sheriff.
their ass. They're trying to cover their ass.
You clearly went to that place because your informant said that's where Guzman and Lopez were.
Right.
Don't try to flip it and say Rodriguez was selling him heroin.
Their apartment looks already stupid for these cops being so dumb.
Right.
And going
putting
into
themselves in danger.
Putting themselves in danger like more. And they all their, oh my goodness. And then
when the last 2 cops arrived, the other 3 cops are nowhere to be found. And then some unknown voice is like, come in.
Quiet. Come in the house.
Come in here.
We have donuts.
Hey, we should go in.
Right. Should we go in there?
Well, no drugs.
And then they go to a apartment building, not even researching their
who lives there.
Right, their informants, integrity. They can easily look up who lives there.
Right. Foreman got $1,000. That's probably the police department that killed him in July.
Right. Like, well, I bet.
Idiot. No drugs were found in the Rodriguez apartment, and Rodriguez had not sold drugs to an undercover agent. There goes that. Jones, however, claimed that an informant notified the police that Guzman and Lopez were at the Rodriguez apartment. Okay, and that the police announced themselves at the apartment in Spanish and English. Dallas Legal Services Project Director Ed Polk acted as attorney for Tomas Rodriguez. Polk had demanded that the sheriff file charges against Rodriguez or retract his claims of Rodriguez being a drug seller to Guzman. Sheriff Jones did not file formal charges against Rodriguez and instead gave his evidence over to the grand jury. He said, well, they'll decide, I guess.
Right. Like, I ain't doing nothing. Rodriguez was given a $1,000 bond by Judge P.T. Scales.
That's not bad.
Grand jury was gathered in March to determine...
Scales?
Right.
Isn't like the symbol of court is the justice scales?
Yeah.
What the hell?
A grand jury was gathered in March to determine the Guzman and Lopez indictment, and also to determine whether or not to indict Thomas Rodriguez on charges of assault to murder a police officer and the sale of heroin.
How can you charge him on sale of heroin? You didn't find any drugs.
I mean, you can get him for assault because I doubt that gun was legal.
No, they're just trying to cover their asses because they went shooting into an apartment that they shouldn't have been shooting into.
Right. A federal narcotics agent testified regarding the accusations.
What did he say?
I guess he didn't say anything.
Okay.
26th of
Federal
February.
narcotics agent testified regarding the accusations. So there's a saying in favor of this guy testified that Thomas is a drug dealer.
Sure.
So maybe he had him on his radar. Is he being investigated in any of their
Well, I guess we'll both
federal
find out.
accounts or something?
Maybe we'll find out. February 26th, Dallas deputy Tom Barker was heard by journalists as claiming that the entire neighborhood where Guzman and Lopez lived were aware of the Moitas beforehand. This comment, which was interpreted as indicting the largely Mexican-American community in West Dallas, was sharply criticized by community leaders such as, well, they're going to indict the whole day. Yeah, they're going, all of them are witnesses, baby.
That, and they're saying that.
It's a big old ring,
Well.
basically.
Well, like you said, sure, everybody in the
Right.
apartment building at
I mean,
least
it's just like in the
knew
projects.
who the
if
hell
something happens.
right?
And
Whose
it's
men them were.
all right, everybody knows. Damn, you heard about those two pigs that got slaughtered down there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
man, it was crazy.
That was Pablo and Jason, man. Those guys are crazy. Told him to stop.
Told them to, man. Fucking, I told you this one guy's gonna hurt somebody. I didn't think it'd be cops. Now they're fucked. Anyhow,
Warren Burnett served Rodriguez as his defense attorney after he was indicted by the grand jury, so he gets indicted, huh? July, Burnett filed a motion for Rodriguez to receive a speedy trial.
right.
Rodriguez also filed a $10,000 damage suit against Sheriff Clarence Jones, Dallas Police
it?
Chief Frank Dyson, and the deputies who had shot him.
That's it.
Yeah, I'd be going for a little bit more than 10,000,
for
bud.
millions.
I mean, it's 72 though. February 72, Robert McKnight, one of the officers who had shot Rodriguez, gave a deposition for Rodriguez's suit. McKnight claimed that the police had announced themselves in English and Spanish, and that the first shots he heard came from within the apartment. Well, of course he's going to say that.
Right. He acknowledged that Rodriguez had been fleeing into the apartment when he was shot,
Oh, somebody's running away from you.
and the officers were. Well, because he didn't have a weapon yet. He had to go get the weapon.
No, he was fleeing towards the kitchen when he was shot.
Right.
He already had his gun.
No, he was going to get
No, he grabbed his gun from the couch and then went towards the kitchen. That's when he got shot.
it. That's what happened.
Still, it wasn't running. He wasn't shooting at him.
He said after that, the officers were tasked with ensuring that no one left that apartment. McKnight
So you
claimed,
shoot him?
Right. McKnight claimed, they're like, how do we do that? Immobilize them. McKnight claimed that they believed Guzman and Lopez alone were inside the apartment.
To be fair, I'm sure they didn't know that Rodriguez was Rodriguez. Maybe they did thought it was Guzman or Lopez.
Right. That's what we were saying all along. Because then that's the informant said that's where they were at.
Right. Well, you know, there's only a pregnant chick sitting on the damn...
And kids, 8 kids everywhere.
Right.
What the hell? And they're still firing their weapons. Final hearings for the damaged suit were held on March 9th, 1972. Attorneys Burnett and William Babb focused much of their arguments on the police's failure to announce why they were raiding the apartment. The defense claimed that the injuries sustained by Rodriguez and his wife were his own fault for shooting at the officers. Right? Well, what else would you
Well,
say?
if he shot at him, then yeah. District Attorney Wade also argued that there was no provision in state laws for such a claim against a government body, only regarding motor accidents involving county employees.
Really?
Really? Charges were dropped in September due to technicalities.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Of course. November 2nd, 72, Celso Cantu was awarded $6,500 in personal damages for being held illegally without charges and incommunicado in a 9-foot by 4-foot room in the Dallas County Jail.
No shit.
Why? Who's this guy?
All right. He was
Well,
somebody.
Apparently, he had been arrested playing baseball in West Dallas as a suspect in the murder and was held in solitary confinement for 8 days. Can't do that. Dallas County Sheriff Jones admitted that Cantu was in prison doing an administrative oversight. So
Really?
clearly, these guys are dirty assholes
Right,
anyway,
dude.
so I don't believe
Yeah,
anything they've
right.
said.
Anything could happen here. Who knows? Maybe these cops that went there were actually in on it, or with the heroin situation.
Who knows?
Yeah, man. It could be a training day all over.
Right.
Grand jury was gathered March to determine if there were enough sufficient evidence to charge Guzman and Lopez with Moita, and determine if the officers acting in the raid on the Rodriguez apartment were acting within the line of the duty. The witnesses testified to indict Guzman and Lopez were Dallas County Deputy Sheriffs John R. Webb, Jim Valentine, and Mick Curley himself. Dallas Police Detectives Gus Rose and Captain R.O. Dixon and Attorney Brian Hunsaker also testified before the grand jury.
All right, well, March 30th, Guzman's attorney filed a motion indicating that he would seek an acquittal in response to the district attorney's office stating in a legal document that they would be seeking the death penalty.
Ooh.
He also filed a writ of habeas corpus Guzman's attorney filed a motion for Guzman to be tried separately from Lopez on April 16th, and the motion was denied by PT Scales. In April, Guzman and his brother Moises, along with 4 others, filed a suit against the estates of the murdered officers. Against the estates? Jeez.
Wow.
Claiming that they were arrested without provocation or legal cause and had been subjected to acts of terrorism. They weren't arrested.
Right. No, they kidnapped them.
You guys arrested them. Wow. What the hell is going on? These guys are idiots.
Right. None of the attorneys on the case felt the need for a change of venue. But in May 1971, District Judge Scales determined that the case had received too much publicity in Dallas for a fair hearing, which is probably true. He moved the murder trial to Belton, Texas.
Belton, Texas sounds a little white to me.
And he presided over the trial.
Oh, wow.
Guzman was represented by attorneys Frank Holbrook and John J. Jingerheimer Smith. John J. Salone. And Lopez was represented by corner-appointed attorneys Don Metcalf and Florentino Ramirez.
Guzman couldn't even spring to have his attorneys to represent both of them?
Maybe Guzman was a higher-upper guy, and this other guy was nobody. Stupid. Before the trial began, Salone hired a psychiatrist who determined that Guzman showed traits of psychomotor epilepsy. Okay. An illness that had been used by Jack Ruby's defense team to argue that Ruby was not sane. It's just crazy. He gets epilepsy. Watch. Strobe light.
Right. Sorry, man.
That's what I do. That's my trigger finger goes off.
Unprovoked focal seizures that originate in the temporal lobe of the brain that last about 1 or 2 minutes.
Oh, man.
What's a focal seizure? Seizures when affect initially one hemisphere of the brain. The brain is divided in 2, which consists of 4 lobes. Focal seizure generated in and affects just one part of the brain.
Deja vu.
Oh, yeah, deja vu, amnesia.
Unprovoked fear and anxiety.
Sudden sense of
okay.
Nausea.
Upset
hallucinations.
Stomach. Oh, shit.
Disrealization.
Fear, anger, and other emotions.
Stimulation of one sense experienced in a second sense. What the hell? I'm feeling my taste. What the hell's going on? Wow.
That'd be weird.
Maybe this guy was messed up.
Right.
But, I mean, come on.
If that's the case.
Right. Maybe it was just drugs.
Yeah. During the jury selection procedures, Guzman and Lopez were held at the Bell County Jail.
Bell County. Now, District Attorney Doug Mulder, no relation to Scully.
No. It was Scully and Mulder.
Right. But didn't Mulder bang Scully? Didn't they get married or something? Pretty sure they did by the end of the series.
The end of the thing, but it wouldn't have no relations to
Of course,
Scully.
it would be like brother-in-law or something.
Might have relations to Mulder.
Brother-in-law to Scully.
I guess.
Doug Mulder, assistant district attorney, led the prosecution against Guzman and Lopez.
Oh, okay.
He was joined by state prosecutor John Sparlin and district attorney Henry Wade.
Oh.
The team was later joined by the Bell County district attorney Stanley Kaser.
All right.
The prosecutors decided to try Guzman and Lopez for the murder of Robertson first because Dover was present at Robertson's death and could serve as a witness.
Right.
Isn't Dover dead?
Yeah.
Oh, Dover was wounded.
Yeah, Dover was wounded.
Dover was present at Robertson's death. Yeah, right. Both Dover and McCurley had picked Guzman and Lopez out of a lineup as the men who took the officers captive.
You're like, yep, that's those bastards.
There they are right there.
Prosecution had difficulties finding Bell County residents who believed in capital punishment.
What?
And nearly half
This
of
is Texas?
Right. And nearly half of the first round of interviewed potential jurors stated that they could not sentence anyone to death.
Damn, they were looking for people. That's not good. You're not supposed to do that.
No. The first 24 prospective jurors were turned down by both the defense and the prosecution. The trial was sat by a jury of 11 men and 1 woman.
Huh.
The trial for murder of Arthur Robertson began Monday, June 28, 1971. Dover was the first to give a statement during the opening day of testimony. He described the events of the shooting emotionally and stated that he had no doubt in his mind that Guzman and Lopez were our shooters and he would never forget them as long as he lived.
Wait, why are we having a trial when Guzman and Lopez both admitted in writing that they were shooting, that they shot him?
Right.
That's kind of dumb. Well, McCurley also took the stand and described what he saw during the shooting. After the 2-day trial, what did you see, McCurley?
He's like, I seen it. No further questions, Your Honor. The jury's like,
oh my gosh.
He's seen it.
After the 2-day trial, Henry Wade made the closing arguments for the trial. He stated that the crime Guzman and Lopez committed was against the very fiber of our nation. It reflected what Wade described as an open season on police officers. These remarks drew strong objections from the defense.
All right.
The jury deliberated for 30 minutes before convicting Guzman and Lopez. How do they convict less time for this than they do for an open and shut case like a murder or
Right.
something?
Well, this is only a 2-day trial here.
Ridiculous. 30 minutes, yeah, they both were convicted of Arthur Robinson's murder.
Oh.
They were sentenced to death by electric chair.
Right.
The sentence was seen positively by several surviving friends and relatives.
Right. And then they still have to do the other ones.
Nope.
Guzman and Lopez were not tried for the murders of Infante and Reese. 1973, the conviction was overturned by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals due to the 1972 Furman versus Georgia United States Supreme Court decision that temporarily ruled the death penalty to be unconstitutional.
Yeah.
And due to remarks made by District Attorney Henry Wade during his closing arguments were judged improper.
What did he say?
Oh, probably some weird stuff.
They deserve to die, probably.
Right. Yeah, we need to murder these sons of bitches. Why wait? And cocked his gun.
And all the jurors were like, like, whoa. Judge is like, wow, come on.
The sufficiency of the evidence in the original trial was not in question. Obviously. Guzman was represented by attorneys Joe Montemayor, Pat McDowell, and Frank Holbrook. Lopez was represented by attorneys Donald Scroggins and Paul Enriquez. District Attorney John Sparling led the prosecution for
the case, for the appeals. Now he's district attorney?
for the appeals.
He was just the state prosecutor. He got bumped up to DA?
Look at that shit.
What happened to Henry
Look at
Wade?
Mulder. Mulder's like, what?
Right. He's like, I was assistant, dude. No. Scully.
It's like vice president, isn't it? Shit.
The first new trial for the murder of A.J. Robinson was held in Belton, Texas, and began Monday, February 18th, 1974, almost 3 years exactly from the murders.
So I guess if he's sentenced to death, they would have to have a new trial anyway, right? Or a new sentencing?
Why?
If he's sentenced to death and they're saying that's illegal now.
Temporarily, though. This is the new trial because of that.
Right.
Pat McDowell had unsuccessfully moved for all three murder cases to be tried at once, but Lopez refused to accept the idea. And why?
Right.
And he and Guzman were tried together for the three separate murders. Oh, so now they're trying him for all three.
Oh, jeez.
Both sets of attorneys also attempted to have separate trials for their clients, but were unsuccessful.
Okay.
Jury of 7 women and 5 men this time. All African-American or Mexican-American sat for the first trial.
Okay.
Both survivors of the shooting served as witnesses in the new case.
Obviously. No case was presented by the defense. And the attorneys of the two defendants had pleaded for mercy for the men during the punishment phase of the trial.
Why was there no case?
During the punishment phase of the trial. Because they fired. There's like, dude, you have nothing. You got the signed confessions.
Well, there couldn't have been no case because
Right.
they already said that none of the evidence was
Right.
disputed. So,
Well, the
what
trial.
are we gonna do?
The trial. When did this happen? What start date of this new trial?
18th.
18th. So 2 days later, on the 20th of February, the trial concluded. Jury took 10 more minutes this time than last time. 40 minutes to determine a guilty verdict for the murder of Robinson. 60 minutes to give the defendants a sentence of life in prison.
All life. So they.
And so they did 40 minutes, and they took an hour to figure out if they should put him in prison, life or not. That's pretty long. You think the first 10 minutes would be like, yeah, life.
Right.
The trial of the murder of Don Reese began on Tuesday, April 2nd, 1974. 5 women, 7 men sat on the jury. Deputy Dover was first witness in the trial and was followed by other sheriffs and officers from Dallas.
All right. District Judge R.T. Scales sat for this trial and for the trial of the murder of Infante. Reese's
Damn, the next day the trial was over?
Reese's trial was completed on April 3rd, and the jury deliberated 25 minutes before determining a guilty verdict, and another 25 before determining a life sentence for both Guzman and Lopez.
So 2 life sentences.
The second trial was held for the murder of Samuel Infante on April 3rd, 1974, which was the same day that they were found guilty for Reese. Immediately after the sentences, a jury of 8 women and 4 men sat for that one. Jury took 10 minutes to deliberate on a guilty verdict and 15 to give a second life term for each defendant. They're like, let's get this shit over with. Well, yeah.
They're like, there you go, boys. Life. February 1971, Dallas County Commissioners voted for the Dallas County Historical Plaza to be dedicated to the late Sheriff Bill Decker and all county officers killed in the line of duty.
What the hell Bill Decker do? Was he
don't
killed
care.
in line of duty or something?
I'm sure. And now the rest of them. The commissioners also voted to pay the families of Infante and Reese 3 months of their salaries.
Oh.
Ooh.
What do they get, a whole $5,000 maybe?
1967, state of Texas passed an amendment providing $10,000 to officers killed on duty with an additional monthly stipend for families with children. Oh, $10,000.
Oh, okay, so they got $10,000 plus 3 months of their salary.
Dallas County also provided life insurance for deputies.
Good for them.
Rene Guzman attempted to escape from prison in January 1973. He and other escapees had sawed a hole in the prison wall using a hacksaw.
Okay.
Guzman died in prison August 15th, 2021.
Damn, just recently, Guzman. Leonardo Lopez was granted parole on December 18th, 1990 after requesting parole 9 times. Age of 44, he moved to 44. Dude still got a whole life. He moved to Houston where he lived with his wife, who he married by proxy 2 years before. He expressed remorse and regret for the killings and claimed that he was so high that he could not accurately recall the events. He did not contact Guzman while in prison. He attended church services regularly and claimed to be a Christian. Lopez stated in an interview, "I don't want to be a hypocrite or nothing. Like I tell God when I talk to him. He knows I can't change nothing. What happened has happened. Now I put my life in his hands."
Let's see what I mean. He expressed a fear for traveling to meet with relatives, claiming that he feared harassment from police and that he believed that police could kill him without reprisals. He considered writing to the relatives of survivors but decided against it after concluding that nothing he stated could make them understand what happened that very day. His parole placed him under intensive supervision, requiring him to have 10 in-person visits with his parole officer per month. That's a lot. And be subjected to drug testing on demand.
Yeah, probably.
His placement on parole was met with criticism.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He
His release,
filed 9 times.
Right. His release helped lead to the formation of special hearings on parole decisions.
Everybody hates him now because they can't get out on parole no more.
Lopez was eventually returned to prison in Texas for parole violations, where he died on the 6th of August of 2017.
Oh,
what?
Come on, Lopez.
What did he do?
Well, didn't put his life in God's hands, that's for sure.
Right. I mean, he had been something to keep him there.
Right.
Holy shit.
Sure, it was drugs or something. Yeah, that's those guys. Well, now we'll go through a short little bio of each of these deputies and stuff. Deputy Sheriff William Reese, born October 15, 1939 in Dallas, to H.G. Reese and Grace Watson, served with the Big Spring Police Force before joining the Dallas County Sheriff's Department in 1962. His funeral services were held at the First Baptist Church of Rockwall, and he was buried at Rockwall Cemetery.
All right.
He had been steadily progressing within the ranks of his department before his death, and he was survived by parents and a brother.
Damn.
Oh, he didn't even have a wife or nothing, huh? 39, 49, 59, 69. He was 30-something. Didn't even have a wife.
Deputy Sheriff Samuel Infante was born on September 21st, 1938, Corpus Christi, Texas.
Salinas.
To Daddy Samuel Infante and Mama Eva Garcia. He was a Navy veteran. He had spent 6 years serving in the Corpus Christi Police Department before joining the Dallas County Sheriff's Department in 1967. His funeral services were at the Southland Funeral Chapel in Grand Prairie, Texas. And he is buried at Moore Memorial Gardens in Arlington.
What the hell?
He was described as gentle and conscientious. He was survived by his wife and his son.
Oh. Deputy Sheriff Arthur Robinson was born June 12th, 1911. Wow.
Ooh, this dude
was like 60-something.
He was about ready to retire.
Right.
Damn, it's like the movie Colors.
Right. In Texas, to James R. Robinson and Effie Jackson. He was a veteran in World War II. He worked as a superintendent of the Ellis County Penal Farm and worked in the Texas penal system for 20 years before joining the Ellis County Sheriff's Department. Jeez. He was like a, security guard?
Sure.
His funeral services were held at the First Methodist Church of Waxahachie, and he was buried in Waxahachie. He was described as jolly. Good for him.
Penal and Waxahachie.
All right, and jolly.
Gotta wax that hatchie. Officer A.D. McCurley was born February 24th, 1925.
Wow.
Tyler, Texas. He served as a tank driver for World War II. He worked as a bus driver before entering law enforcement. In 1963, he was named Officer of the Year for his work on investigating the Kennedy assassination.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no shit.
Oh.
Okay, here. He was one of the first officers at the scene of a shooting position in the Texas School Book Depository Building.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no shit. He retired as a deputy sheriff in 1987. And in 1990, was elected mayor of Murchison, Texas, and served food to everybody. And served 2 full terms.
Oh, good for him.
Died tragically September 21st, 2001 in Tyler, Texas. Ooh. Buried at Haven of Memories in Canton, Texas. He was described as humorous and kind. He was survived by his wife, 3 sons, and 2 grandchildren. After the shooting, McCurley stated to interviewers that he thought often of the event and why he was spared while others had died.
Well, you were spared because you ran. And hid. Right. Deputy Wendell Dover was born May 29, 1921 in the Bird community near Waxahachie to Charlie D. Dover and Ruth Watley. Served in the Army Air Corps during World War II. He worked as a carpenter before working at the Ellis County Sheriff's Office as a deputy sheriff. Died March 5th, 2005 in Enos, Texas. His funeral services were held at Kiever Chapel, and he was buried at Grady Cemetery.
Okay. Rene Guzman, born September 20th, 1937, was 33 years old at the time of the Moitas. Before the murders, he had received a 4-year probated sentence for robberies by assault in Jim Hogg and Hidalgo counties in 1959.
There's a Jim Hogg County.
I guess.
Wow.
His probation was revoked in 1961, and he served time in prison until 1963. Later found guilty of burglary in Hall and Swisher counties and was given a 10-year sentence for the burglaries. He was out of jail by November 1967, and in July 1968 was charged with murder in a stabbing incident. Jeez. The murder charges were dropped after witnesses became reluctant to testify.
I wonder why.
His brother, 35-year-old Moises Juniga Guzman, was arrested as suspect the day of the murders, after the murders. He had no records or convictions in the office of Dallas District Attorney Henry Wade. So, dude, the other Guzman was in and out of prison for the last 11 years.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This dude stayed in prison from like 59 to 2021.
Pretty much.
That's ridiculous.
What happens?
60 years.
60 years.
He was in prison.
Right.
Wow.
Right. My name was 33, so when he went in, or no, his term at the murders, he was 33.
All right.
20-something when he went in the first time.
No.
Meanwhile, Leonardo Lopez was 24 years old at the time of the murders. After his arrest, he told reporters that he had a heroin addiction that cost him $75 to $150 per day. That's a lot of money in 71. He was married to his first wife at the time of the murders and trials, and we know what happened to him. He did.
Wow. That's a little odd story here, man. Unless these guys were just so hopped up on heroin and just didn't know what to do, which probably was the case. What was the original crime anyway? Anyway.
Breaking into a house that we're not even sure. Well, how do we even get that?
Right.
Did they even get that out of them?
Did we care?
Establish?
They don't even care.
Right. Did we even establish that these guys were who they were looking for in the first place?
Right. And it was just a television set in the stereo.
Right. But, like you said, they were high out of their minds. Probably the cops came and they were probably freaked the fuck out.
Jeez.
So we got to do it. Especially
Wow.
if the car's backed up against the damn garage that they were using.
Right.
Jeez.
OP.
A bunch of this whole situation is stupid. These cops are
stupid.
I bet you after this something had to have been passed down. Like, hey guys, let's not enter the suspects' houses.
You know, you always ask to enter, or you know, if anybody ever says, "Hey, bud, why don't you come inside for a minute?" Bud?
That how are you? I don't understand how they just got in the house and then let them pull guns on them. Like,
Right.
You're not paying attention to these guys, or if you're in the house, you should at least be like, sit down, because that's what they usually do. Sit down while we talk to you.
Right.
Like, just watching them wander around. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, some protocols. Poor protocols there. That's
Sure in hell was terrible training, or like I said, it could have been some shady situation going on.
something was going on, maybe, right? But
first place.
you think Guzman and Lopez would have squealed about it and something like that was happening?
Right, and then you had the guy that investigated JFK Jr.
Right.
or JFK's assassination.
Right. Maybe after all these years, they were trying to silence him again, and then didn't work out.
He still lived,
but he
and
lived forever.
A mayor or something.
For forever.
Wasn't he a mayor and shit like that?
He was a myrrh.
He was a mayor.
That's gonna do it for us in this episode. Not a hard-hitting, gruesome one, but nevertheless,
Crazy.
weird.
Make no sense.
Kind of weird. Still like to know if they were ever charged for the burglaries.
Right. Did they get the TV back?
Right.
TV and what was it? Stereo system?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, people loved the stereo system back in the
Back
day.
then, you
They
know,
put
it was
some money
one of
on
those
those
big
sons of
ones with the
bitches.
speakers and stuff. Right.
Daddy worked all year to get that stereo system.
Yep. That'll do it for us. Make sure you are going to check out manscaped.com. 20% off and free shipping on your ball razor or whatever ball treatments that you want to get over there with the code TRUECRIME. Also, patreon.com/bangdang for this show, Outlaws and Gunslingers, plus Battles of the American Civil War and This Week in Sports History, all ad-free and at least 2 days early. $2 a month. That's it. Just $2 a month for all three of those shows, early, ad-free. I mean, come on. And then, yeah, we'll be back next week for...
Something. We don't know.
Well, looking at my list, we got a massacre, we got murders, assassinations, we got kidnappings, some more murders.
There's got to be a crime
other
some out there that
murders.
no murders got involved, but it was like the Catch Me If You Can guy. Got to be something like that.
It's an armored truck robbery.
People die in that.
Yep, 2 guards of the car were murdered. So there's that. I don't think we have any. We have no non-murders. Assassination of William McKinley. Yeah, I don't know. We got something coming up.
Figure it out.
But yeah.
Figured out.
Also, make sure you guys are checking out Battles of the American Civil War and This Week in Sports History on the Bang Dang Network. And that'll do it for us this week. We're back next week with more Outlaws and Gunslingers. We are the Monthly Michiganders.
Bang Dang.